This is a response video to Matt. Figure I'll try this one more time. The general subject is science and religion, and a perceived need to somehow integrate science and more romantic notions of existence, let's say. So my argument would be, first, that this thing you were calling science doesn't even exist. And even if it did exist, this thing called science, this group, this cabal, this enemy, this potential danger, science doesn't make any of the decisions about how knowledge, which science creates, is used. It's just not. Science doesn't make those decisions. Scientists can sit there somewhere, the science god or science, and say, no, this technology has certain applications and blah blah blah, so we won't pursue this field any further. Science wants to know answers. I mean, even when you ban, they can ban something in one country and they'll still pursue it in another country because it is science, and people want to, even if it's not something, even if it's a method they don't have an immediate use for, in terms of it's unethical or something else like cloning, the capacity to do it and understand it might have applications for cancer and other things. So I mean, it's a good scientist isn't going to sit there and run away from a harmless experiment because this idiots might do something bad with what is learned from the experiment. I mean, Einstein wasn't guilty of a crime by revealing the truth and making a nuclear bomb possible, because nuclear power was the real the benefit. And so we chose to as a society, as a culture, we made decisions about how we were going to apply that knowledge, and we applied it to making weapons instead of making energy, and that was our choice. So anyway, and then even if, and then the whole way you're describing science is just, it's just not quite right for me. It just doesn't sit right. And I'll use as an example, I mean, you went to school. They separate, physics, chemistry, and biology, into different subjects. What's the difference? It's all one subject. I mean, physics is chemistry, and chemistry is biology, and vice versa for all of those. You can't separate one from the other. They're all on the same continuum, and it was a contrivance to separate them. It was something humans decided to do to this stream, this chain of knowledge, to somehow make it more, so they could spoon feed it, or whatever the rationale was. But it's a contrivance. These are not separate subjects. They are the same subject. It is all science. And science itself is just another word. And I would argue that, I did in the comments, and you really didn't answer this comment, but science is engineering. That's what it is. You're either you're engineering a route to discovery, or you're engineering a route to creation. But it has to do with engineering a methodology, a process that will gain you knowledge of either a truth or of how to do something. And in a sense, it's like logic, and it feeds on itself. I mean, we learn processes, and then we apply those processes to learn a new process. And you can see it in our history. I mean, you learn how to extract metals from ore, and then you learn to combine different elements and create a new compound, and you learn a methodology to follow to do that. And all of this stuff is science. and I mean, I have a garden, and you know, I cross my plants, and you know, so in a way, I'm conducting a scientific experiment every year, because the next year I have different, you know, colors and shapes and sizes of a particular plant, because I decided to play with their genetics, and you know, so science is everywhere. I mean, it's you know, you can be a scientist in your living room. You can, you know, and so this idea that somehow science is strangling, you know, or resisting or stopping exploration of these altered states that you are interested in, of altered states of consciousness, or mystical states of awareness, or however you want to put it. There's nothing stopping you or anybody else from scientifically exploring that field, you know, but yeah, the rest of the scientific community, or the rest of rational thinkers, might reject, you know, some kind of nonsense you come up with. I mean, we got TV shows on cable, you know, called the Discovery Channel, different channels, Sci-Fi Channel, whatever, and you know, they you know, they have mystics and psychics and ghosts, you know, paranormal events taking place, and it's all documented, and but you know, we all know it's bullshit. I mean, there was a guy on television for years talking to the dead, you know, and but everybody knows what it is. It's a fraud, and you know, it's not science. There's nothing to discover there, except that, you know, humans like to fool each other for money. And you know, this whole concept that you're finding a better reality, but you completely reject the idea of artificial intelligence, and so I guess virtual reality would be offensive to you, and you think it all should be done through the brain chemistry. These altered states, and it was, you know, it just seems like a silly distinction. I mean, you know, I don't want to get vulgar, but you know, women sometimes need extra stimulation, you know, vibrators and such, to fully realize or actualize a superior state, and you know, of consciousness or awareness or stimulation or whatever you want to call it, and you know, yeah, well, you could also do that with chemistry. I mean, certainly, yeah, you can just get women drunk, or you can give them LSD, or you can do something else, and then they can have the more complete experience. But, you know, what's the difference? It's still, here you are talking about nature, and, you know, and then you're talking about what's more unnatural than, you know, forcing your brain into some kind of surreal or artificial consciousness. You know, if I can force myself into a delusional dream state, you know, it might be an interesting concept, but what purpose would that serve? I'm just escaping reality. I'm escaping nature, and you know, look, I mean, I've did my share of drugs, and I spent 3 hours one evening contemplating dust bunnies under the bed. And you know, thought it was a profound experience, but you know, in hindsight, I know what it was. You know, I was fucked up, and you know, I just don't see it. I mean, you're looking. I just don't see anything here. All I see here is an effort to escape reality. But at the same time, no willingness to concede reality sucks, which is kind of bizarre. And so, yeah, you know, I shouldn't do. You know, I wasn't going to do this response. It's just that, yeah, I'm still listening to your videos, and you know, it's like, yeah, I just sat through 40 minutes of talking around circles, and so I would just say that, yeah, I think there needs to be a better framework.